right, there we go. All righty, my friends.
Yeah, we are live on YouTube. Live on YouTube, we're live on TikTok. Thank you very much for joining us, guys, for the live taping of season 2, episode number 25 of One Fire, as brought to us by David. Yeah, I'm ready to kick off whenever you are.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Well, like we said, we're ready to have some fun. So throw in your questions in here if you've seen this. If you're part of the incredibly extensive Reign of Fire fandom, please join in because I'm very excited to talk to you all because I didn't know you existed. But here we go. Let's have some fun. And here we go. Today is May 13th, 2023. Bleak. Everything is bleak. Future, semi-less bleak. Status currently night, kind of. Well, it depends on where you are because time zones are a bitch. But somehow we've been allowed to continue this podcast. But a new threat emerges. Views. Views have been at an all-time low. If we ever had any, we don't know where they went. If you do know, please let us know because I think that's something got lost and it's probably at a lost and found somewhere. I mean, if you guys want to know, just ask your local Starbucks. I was there a couple days ago. Maybe I lost a couple there. How do I know this? No clue. Analytics maybe. But regardless, hopefully this should pop up the views right there. But I'll tell you what, we have some incredible guests who are going to help us get through these trying times. We have your favorite Aussie, the man, the myth, the legend, the incredible, the fabulous, the sexy, the lovely. He has turned his name single-handedly into a verb. We have Naf. Now, Naf, would you care to introduce yourself to the following people?
Yeah, should I do my Matthew McConaughey impression or?
Please.
All right.
Okay. All
Then...
right. Well.
Okay.
All right. Well, honestly, that feels very appropriate. But we are not alone here because we have the man who brought us what could be one of the most out-of-pocket films I have ever seen in my entire goddamn life. A man whose looks and brains matches his heart and his personality. A guy who just continuously expands our just knowledge of everything, whether it's Star Wars or just this. But bottom line, is an incredible person to have here and to join us in our quest for views. Please, let's welcome David to the podcast. David, care to introduce yourself?
Thank you for that intro. I am David, also known as Xanatos 1138 on TikTok, Twitch, anywhere there's social media. You can find me with that name.
Fabulous, David. All right, so now, guys, let's get into this. So we are One with the Films now. If you've known us for a bit, or if you're just joining us, if this is your first stream, you gotta listen. Like, I think that we're a hoot. So come on, follow us. Have a what do you got to lose? But you know, here's the thing. So Naf, do you want to give a little spiel as to what we do here?
Absolutely. Like we said, we're One with the Film. And just seeing in chat forward back what's going on, my dude. And Tabs, thank you.
I also saw Chris, Star Wars Lawyers in here.
We've got Chris, we've got Kari here. This is a podcast that we live and it's available. Also, you can place to be. Let me tell you a little bit about what we do here. Hello, Chris. Let me tell you, you've come at the
3 sexy men. You know what I mean?
We're season 2, episode 25 of One with the Uninitiated. We run the week.
Hey there.
Weekly watch list is that's where Kay and I and you watch one of our personal full of introductions. And if by chance we, well, then there's time to time we'll bring on jump on him. Perfect little bunch of nerds art form love. And we're so glad to have you with us. We're live on either YouTube. Ask your question. Hey Elizabeth, Keegan's bi vibes are very all of it.
I turned on the TV with the whole bi vibe, and it really is setting the mood. Like, I'm so glad, Elizabeth, you caught it. I felt very proud today. I am very proud of my bi vibes because man, did they come out in force in this movie. Like, I have so many thoughts. So
I'm very excited to hear. Adding to that, of course, guys, if that does sound like a pretty cool idea to you, subscribe or follow us. We've got a one with the film page, and you can find us on. Feel free to follow along and enjoy. If you like the idea where you can add a form. Big sort of gift here is that every time one person not have all about introducing love. So, thank you again. Have a film. Surprisingly enough. Film this week by David, who is our special guest. David, why don't you tell us what?
So the film of the week is Reign of Fire, and I chose it mainly because I first saw it when I worked as an usher at a movie theater, like 20 years ago.
Okay.
And it came out, and I'm seeing that there's dragons. Dragons are one of my favorite things. Like, I love mythical dragons. I still, funny enough, haven't watched Game of Thrones, or I'm not as into Game of Thrones as JJ, but so when I saw that there was dragons, I'm like, I am already sold. I don't have to see anything else. So
True.
When you told me this was a film about dragons, what did I?
Oh yeah, and when you said we're gonna get into that, but yeah, I'm just so curious. So like, you went in, you were an usher, and I'm guessing then you saw the film, and how did that like go for you? Like, just
it's funny because like I actually liked it better than I thought I would, even still after watching it. And the only gripe that I had is like they're like the actually moment, they're actually wyverns because they're not.
Oh yeah,
they're just the wings.
My favorite. This is my like holier than thou argument. Dragons. I'm like, that is a wyvern.
I just see you doing like a little kick flip up with your foot as you walk away when you say it. Like, thank you very much, and just sort of like. That's how I see it.
And I don't think I realized it was Matthew McConaughey until halfway through the movie the first time viewing it either.
Quiet.
Hold on one second. We're just gonna get that all figured out. In the podcast version of this, you'll just put like a little interlude moment of just like do 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 do. And hopefully better than that for you guys who are joining live. So maybe this is where our views went. And so,
is that better, Jim? Let me know. It looks like it's coming through a lot clearer now.
All right, Jim, give us a high sign when you can.
It does seem a little low, but I've turned it up quite a bit, and I've turned off the filters. So, and let's make sure that.
But hopefully that should work there. Hold on one second there.
Man.
I just don't like everything's so good, David, that we just don't want it to like have any moment of it. We want to make sure it's getting all recorded fine.
Oh yeah, no,
hell yeah,
no problem.
Yeah, we were saying that David, you got to catch this film for the first time. You liked it a lot more than you thought you were gonna like it. And Pod1s is in chat. Welcome, Pod1s. Another great podcast that you guys should follow as well, especially if you're Star Wars fans. There's some hot takes
definitely
on that podcast.
Oh yeah, absolutely, 100%, 1000%. And so, so with that, so David, you go and you see this. Continue. Like, so how did that end up going for you? Like you're saying it was a little bit more than what you were expecting. Like it was a lot of stuff that you thought you wouldn't like, but you actually do like. So tell me.
It was one of those instances where I really liked it, and then I started looking at reviews, and people didn't seem to like it. And I was like, all right, well, I guess it's just for me then.
Mm.
They even made a video game that was terrible. I mean, that was back when they're making a bunch of video games for everything.
Mm.
Um, but no, I think I watched it a few times, and it was just better every time for me.
Yeah, I can see that.
Absolutely. Well, Naf, obviously, I don't know about you. I had never even heard this film existed. Like, I didn't know shit about it. But the fun thing about this is I know you got some fun facts. So do you want to tell our audience
Yeah.
about it before we get into what you and I thought we knew about this film?
Absolutely. So again, I had no concept that this film existed at all, and as I did my research into it before watching it, I got even deeper, because I was like, okay, it's got this actor, like what the hell? But let me tell you just a little bit about this film that is going to give you so much wonderful insight. So it was released in 2002. It has a runtime of 1 hour and 42 minutes and was made on a budget of only $60 million US. It had minor success, making back its budget at 82 million US. It stars Christian Bale and Matthew McConaughey and was directed by Rob Bowman, who went on to direct the critical and commercial success that was 2005's Elektra, as well as working through his Nathan Fillion man crush by producing Castle and the Rookie. The film is unique, to say the least. It's based during a post-apocalyptic 2020, where the world has been taken over by wyverns. On IMDb, it has a rating of 6.2 out of 10 from over 140,000 reviews, and a 2.9 out of 5 on Letterboxd. The film has been consistently praised for its depiction of wyverns, and features very effective VFX shots that mix practical effects to make the dragons feel much realer than they had any right to be for the year 2002. And that's a little bit on Reign of Fire.
Oh my god. So okay. So Dave, I told Naf this before the stream. So I had a moment where you bring up this film, and naturally Naf and I, especially when it's a film that Naf and I haven't heard of or having a moment there, we take a moment and we look and we're like, okay, well, let's take a look at this online. Let's see what we got here. So I just type in Reign of Fire. First thing I see is two names, Christian Bale and Matthew McConaughey. And I go, I'm expecting this to be like a straight to DVD, like, I don't know, like D&D, like before they could really do a D&D movie, like vibe. Yeah. Like that was what I was expecting. Or like, I don't know, like something like that. Then I'm like, okay, interesting. I see that and I go, huh? And then I look at the poster because I'm like thinking about just doing like a post with it or something like that. And I tell Nev, I'm like, okay, so it's gonna be this kind of like, oh, like I'm thinking like Aragon or like something like that, where it's like, oh, he's gonna be in like night. It's like full medieval high fantasy. Then I look at the poster and I see the Tower of London. And I go, oh, so maybe it's like Victorian dragons. Okay, that's interesting. Like that might be there. And then I see Apache attack helicopters in there. And that's when I had a moment of, okay, wait a minute. I have so many more questions about this movie.
Literally.
And oh my God, I sat down with my wife because I tell her this. I tell her that story. And she goes, well, we're watching it together, right? And like it just kind of goes, and I go, she's like, I'll watch the first 5 minutes. Like I'll watch, like we'll see if it's the vibe for me. We sit down, and we just start watching it. We are hooked. She's over there like reading the plot, like she's like going like this. I'm like, what the hell is this? This is Waterworld meets Game of Thrones,
dude.
I'm like,
that is a fantastic. That's what he said in the pitch meeting for sure.
Oh, for sure. I'm like, that's what this is. This is Mad Max, and this is like Game of Thrones. I'm like, oh my God, how has no one ever thought of this? I was like, brilliant. Somebody clearly did. I'm like, oh my God, like,
Malik in chat says they just looked up the poster. Oh wow, and yes. It is a brilliant poster. If you look on our Warm with the Film's Instagram page, I modified it so that our three faces are on the poster.
Naf made it better.
And so... it is. Yeah, it is. You know what I mean? It is.
That is the best way. We were saying, like, because last year we did our one with the films. So David, we're gonna just lead off the bat with this. you truly get, like, you have on this season alone of the show, you have introduced a category. I don't know if you'll win by the end of the season, but you have introduced a new category into our award show at the end of the year, which was the how dare you category, like, of film recommendations, of how dare you recommend a film that makes me so obsessed with it. How
Yeah.
dare you? How dare you invade my psyche like this, David?
I want to add to this as well that did you guys both watch this film for free?
Yeah.
On YouTube with ads?
I had to buy it. I bought the film. This film belongs to me now. I own it. I couldn't even rent the film. I had to purchase it for $12 full dollars. It is on my Amazon account forever. Forever.
That will never be changed.
It will never change. I
can't
can't
do
give it
it.
back. I can't return it like I can with other Amazon purchases. No.
Oh my
this
God.
film belongs to me. It is my film now.
We were saying, I was like watching this, and so here's the thing, Dave. So, and I gotta know from your perspective, because I just want to give you just the sheer, like, unadulterated, oh my God, this film was to me, cannot be understated. Because it's just, I mean, the movie just gets right to the point. Like, can we just start that up? Like, the movie wastes no time in telling you
I
what
thought
it
it was
is.
going to be a Daredevil thing at the start. You know, the acid in the eyes. I was like, oh my God, this poor kid. But nope, it was not. His eyes were
no,
fine.
apparently that eye wash station really worked wonders.
That is an effective eye wash station. They knew they were going to find dragons, and so they were like, we need to make sure this eye wash station
they're saying,
wash out dragon
the
acid.
working conditions in this mine here are like shit, but you know what we gotta have? A goddamn great eye wash station. That thing is better than the fucking, like,
Dude,
I don't know, Area 51.
literally.
Like, that is, oh my God. It was so funny because we're watching this, and then just randomly they find a dragon in a goddamn cave, and it's like, it's just such a quick thing where, like, I told Allie, I was like, oh, so this isn't even the inciting incident. This isn't even like, this is just, it just happened.
Yeah.
It's just there. It's like dragons.
There's a hole.
Okay.
And then the
Like,
kid walks up to the hole, and the guy's like, hey, kid, why don't you go inside that hole? And the kid goes inside the hole, and he's like,
that was my favorite
there's a
part.
dragon there. And then he comes out of the hole, and
This
it's like,
guy
there's dragons
was
in there.
clearly like, this is just Phil from The Office that everybody hates. That's just like, God damn it, Phil. You can't keep putting kids in really dangerous situations. You don't know what's on the other side of that goddamn hole. No, he doesn't even have a goddamn light. Like, he's just like going over here, and just Phil's like, oh, I think he'll be all right. And just kind of having the, like, you know, just going in there. I'm like, and the kid just goes. And it's like, it's perfect. Like, and the thing is, everybody's committing. Like, you might think by us talking about this that this movie is bad. This movie is perfect. I will not have it slandered in any way, shape, or form. This movie is going to be my personality for the next week.
They definitely are. They committed to the bit, and it is impressive. And there's a lot that the film does really, really well. I wanted to ask, David, for yourself, obviously I know that you mentioned that you saw this as an usher in a theater. My first question is why? And not in a derogatory sense. I mean, like, was there a trailer that you were like, oh, that trailer looks good, I'm going to watch that movie? Or was it like the whole usher scenario of I just walked into a theater and I was hooked?
So this was like 20 years ago, so I couldn't tell you the exact scenario. I'm gonna guess though that I saw it as a preview in a different movie, or like I just happened to be working and then there was this preview of like I said, all I had to see was dragons, and I'm like, I want to see that movie, especially because at the time I would have seen it for free anyway.
Yeah.
So I wasn't losing out. I was like, all
So
right,
you're
dragons,
already
I'm gonna
doing
give
better
that
than
one a
me.
shot.
I couldn't see it
Yeah.
for free.
Naf paid the ticket that you did
Damn
to
it.
go and see this movie.
I'm
Like,
on my 4th gin and tonic today. It's 1:45 p.m. and this is the catalyst for
alcoholism
my
or a
alcohol
time
abuse.
zone. Like, but so David, with that, obviously this stuck with you enough that you wanted two of your friends to go and watch it for a podcast. So, in the words of Naf, now when I asked this question, like Naf
not a derogatory way, because this is the best gift I've received in I don't know, the past couple of years.
How dare you?
Like,
I literally flew out to visit you, and this is the best gift you got. The Christian Bale and Matthew McConaughey Wyvern film. You're a piece of shit.
Listen, when Denton Van Zandt is going to become my personality for the next also, side note, when I put in Denton Van Zandt as a hashtag for my video today, it had 122,000 tags, and
wow.
I went Denton Van Zandt. Now, granted, American icon, like Denton Van Zandt, the Matthew McConaughey character from Reign of Fire, has hashtag has 122,000. Like, it's. I was just like, oh my fucking god, what is this? Like, I stumbled upon. I was just telling you guys before stream. I stumbled upon. Apparently, I posted that video, and tons of people are like, "Yeah, where have you been?" Like, and just going like, "What? Do you guys have like a club? Like, do you guys like are like?
Can I join it?
Like, exactly? Are you?
Can you look into my eyes and see awe, and then let me into your club?
Just please, can you just see how badly I want to be a part of your community? Like, so, but all joking aside, David, why this film? Like, why did this, like, out of everything you could have like recommended or things like that, you're like, I know what these fuckers haven't seen, and just go like, you know.
I was trying to pick something outside of Star Wars because like I've made my entire personality Star Wars for a very long time, and it just Reign of Fire, like I've been meaning to rewatch it, and that just kind of stuck. It was like, you know what? Okay, let's do Reign of Fire. Let's see if you guys have seen this one.
Well,
oh man,
you chose effectively, and Whoosh in chat says he forgot how insane Matthew McConaughey was, and this is something I want to talk about because he makes a lot of choices in this film, not just as a character but as an actor. There is a
I do have a comparison that just occurred. I want you to take this. I just thought of a comparison that like really does do it for me, but it'll be better to transition from your thought.
So there is a sense that Denton Van Zandt is just always ready to cry. And I want to talk about that. Also, I want to talk about how he hisses at everyone. Like, or growls. He's like, grrr, I'm going to fight you, grrr. And I'm like, okay, cool. He's been around dragons too long. I don't know what this is. But it's a choice. You know what I mean? And he's stuck to his choice. So let's talk about some of the performances in this film. So we obviously have Christian Bale, we have Matthew McConaughey, 2 Oscar-nominated actors.
Winners now.
Winners, okay, cool. Both Oscar-winning actors. What was it? Matthew McConaughey for Dallas Buyers Club and Christian Bale for...
Christian Bale for The Fighter.
I haven't seen that.
That's a good movie. A very good movie. David O. Russell's guy did Silver Linings Playbook.
Okay,
good movie.
Yeah, so we have 2 Oscar-winning actors who give not their best performance in this film, but an interesting one nonetheless.
How dare you?
So, David, why don't you give me some thoughts on these 2 Oscar-winning actors and their performances in this film?
So, I'm not sure if I know I'd seen Matthew McConaughey and stuff before this, but I'm not even sure if I'd seen Christian Bale or Gerard Butler in anything before watching this movie.
Was before Batman Begins, right? This was like...
Yeah, I think so. I think.
And it was before Geostorm as well, which was, you know, the epitome of Gerard Butler films. Has he ever made a good film?
300?
Gerard Butler?
Yeah. 300? Yeah, I guess 300's okay. I honestly...
P.S. I Love You?
I haven't seen that.
He was...
I'm sure there are more.
He was an ex-con character in one of the Tomb Raider movies. That was okay.
There we go. Listen, I love how our threshold of Gerard Butler movies become that was okay. Was like kind of going like...
He's a unique kind of vibe, that man.
This may be my favorite Gerard Butler performance, though. Like, low-key.
I might agree with you.
Yeah.
What's his name again?
Cherry?
Chavi? Chauncey? What's his character's name? Cheesy?
Charles, I don't know.
Creedy.
Creedy.
Creedy,
I
that's
thought
it.
it was cheesy.
Uh,
Actually, Xanatos, there was a phenomenal moment in this film that I'd love for us to talk about as Star Wars fans. I'm sure you know the one.
Oh,
yes.
Please tell me about this.
So that was a happy accident. I actually remembered after suggesting it to you guys, like, oh yeah, there's a Star Wars reference in this too.
An
when
epic Star Wars reference.
Yeah.
It is brilliant, and it's also like that's us if we were in that universe too, Keegan. We'd be sitting there going, we're storytellers, we want to tell a story. The kids, I'm telling them Star Wars, and I'm going to tell them I made it up.
And
George Lucas was eaten by a dragon.
In that moment, one of my favorite parts of that moment, aside from the scene, is when all of the kids were gasping at the lost hand. Gerard Butler real quick waved and just put his hand back. Like, it's okay, I'm fine.
Nice touch.
It's so good there, but so going to the performances. I did look it up. Batman Begins was 2005. Like Christian Bale was kind of just starting like his whole thing there, and I'm like, oh, okay. Whoosh did say Gerard Butler did voice acting for How to Train Your Dragon, so there we go. We do have a phenomenal Gerard Butler movie.
All right, who did he play in that film?
Probably his father, maybe.
No, his father was Billy Connolly. Or maybe it was Gerard Butler. I don't know.
But bottom line is, we got to talk about McConaughey in this movie. Like,
I didn't expect him at all. I didn't expect him until, because I didn't look at a poster beforehand. I didn't know he was in the film until the film started and it was pulling up the credits, and I was like, excuse me?
See, he was one of the ones that came up when I was looking at, because it was the thing was I was like, I knew Christian Bale was the one that I remembered, but then it was like, there's someone else that's in this movie that I didn't remember, that I was like, I was surprised, and then when I saw it, I was like, that was who it was. Matthew McConaughey. That was the one that I was thinking of.
And Gerard Butler did play Stoic in How to Train Your Dragon, so he's Hiccup's dad.
That's what I said. And so, so what I'm hearing is I'm right. But
absolutely, I'm agreeing with you. What are you trying to fight me for?
No, I'm not trying to fight you. I just wanted to hear you say it again. Listen, we like the fight. What can I say? And so, but you know, the thing for me with Matthew McConaughey in this was, so I heard Matthew McConaughey, and then it was surprising me because I was like, it was taking us a while to get to him, and I was like, what is he gonna be in this? Is he like a voice actor, maybe like a voice role or something like that?
The dragon just
like that was
all right.
Initially I was thinking like maybe there is a Smaug element or something like that, like kind of a thing there. Like that was kind of just where my head was at. And then that tank rolls up and he gets out of that tank. And I'm not proud of this. I have new feelings about Matthew McConaughey now.
Vegan!
I cannot say I ever found Matthew McConaughey attractive.
It took him covered in filth.
It took him bald and covered and like bald with a goatee that, as you said, is Choices the musical, and is like the reference I have to his performance in this movie for us as Star Wars fans is this is the same equivalent of when Forrest Whitaker showed up in Rogue One. It was the thing of like before seeing Saw Gerrera at all. That is the vibe. Hold on. Did we lose David?
Did we? He is frozen on my screen. Let me have a look here.
Oh, David, I see you on the phone. I think it's your so like on TikTok you're good. Yeah. But it's just over like okay. Oh, actually, I think you're good on there. David, you're good there. I just for some reason in Discord it's not working because on the live it seems.
For him. And I can't hear him either. Yeah, my Discord is frozen. So maybe just dip out of the Discord and jump back in, David.
We're just gonna wait a second.
Totally fine. This is what editing is for. If you guys are listening on Spotify, You won't hear.
Oh,
that.
totally.
You know what I'm
Well,
talking
and
about.
And Naf, if you want to bump up your headphones because you can hear him in TikTok.
Yep.
But yeah,
I can
so
hear myself
David,
on TikTok as well. Oh, there we go.
there we go. But yeah, guys, have you guys seen this movie? Have like, okay, I just want to know, like, while we have YouTube and TikTok up, George, have you seen this movie?
Reign of Fire, released in 2002, starring Matthew McConaughey and Christian Bale, set in the year
career
2020,
all-time defining
in
performances.
post-apocalyptic London, fighting dragons. Have
In
you
my
seen
new
this
favorite
film?
I literally texted a friend of mine today that I was like, we are watching this film. I don't know when, but we are. Like,
It's not fair that this exists and I didn't make it.
I know, that's how I feel. I'm like, it's not fair that this exists.
I think I saw that Corridor Crew did a breakdown of the VFX for this film. I think that was one thing that I knew. And they talk about how they mix the practical and the visual effects for it. And it is...
I need to see this now.
It is wild. I'll see if I can find it, because if it was this, awesome. If not, there's another dragon movie I need to watch.
Oh my god. Yeah, like, this is so good. Like,
I'm on the spectrum of, like, originality as well. Like, I've never seen anything like this.
Truly. Like, this is an insane-ass movie.
Yeah,
like,
Woosh
this
says it's
movie...
underrated. Absolutely right.
Oh, 100%. Like, this is like, you might think by our tone of voice that we're like making fun of this movie. We're not. We like, legit. I'm like, okay, I'll save my line for when David comes back in. But it was like, I have feelings on like this type of movie, but this is phenomenal in every way, shape, or form.
Yeah,
but
it is.
But
like I said, they commit to the bit. It is absurd and it's silly. Like, there's no doubt about that. But it commits to the bit and it does a good job of explaining its world and making its world interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right. And with that, like, obviously David over TikTok, as you get your self pulled up back over here, Dave, like, I guess with that, there we go.
Yep.
We're getting you back in.
I see the face.
We see the image. We're almost there.
And we're back. There we go.
There we are.
Technology
Perfect.
today.
Oh no, you're good though. Like overall, it was great. It looked like it was fine for a while on YouTube, so it was good there.
Yeah.
But
so we were saying the film is definitely underrated. I think that it definitely has copped more flack than it deserves. It's not perfect. It is very much like, there are definitely some issues with the script in particular. It's very kind of clunky and very exposition heavy. Woosh mentions that it has one of the better realistic depictions of dragons with the explanation of breathing fire. And I can wholeheartedly agree with that. The fact that these things have a full-on, well-thought-out biology, very interesting. So, David, you were saying that as well in chat when you mentioned it. You said the film's not amazing, but it has one of the best depictions of dragons ever. So I'd love for you to talk to that a little bit if you like.
Well, it goes into like how they start to explain and justify like how Quinn knows too. Like, oh yeah, we had a bioengineer or chemical engineer, but he's dead now. But that was his theory, and like Van Zandt knew because he just observed it. There was logical explanations behind how they knew this stuff. Beyond like I saw like a goof or something about the way they lay the eggs, but I'm like, that's not a big deal. This is a fantasy movie. It's okay.
Yeah. I thought that was kind of interesting there too, because it was like, okay, well, how do they reproduce? How does that have the thing? I did find a moment of going, okay, so you're telling me every single dragon in the world is populated by one, like, from London? That's where this is happening.
London and just jizzing over everything, which same,
truly,
but I mean,
Which, like, I mean, come on, but yeah, when I do it, I get arrested, and like, you know, but, so,
Yeah,
uh,
watching it again today, even I was able to like notice some things that I didn't notice before, but it didn't like ruin anything for me.
mm,
but like, what was so good about it was, as you said, it was like, it truly is like the dragon thing, because Game of Thrones kind of was the one that made me think about it the most, but then this movie really in a different way kind of, and I guess playing D&D and stuff like that has also kind of opened my eyes up with dragons as like a concept, because at first I always kind of felt like dragons never interested me, because they always felt like either it was like a thing to, it kind of always embodied this larger than life thing, but it was kind of a little bit too far out of my mind of what I am thinking a dragon is. Like, I guess it's like, or too far of like, okay, it's so fantasy that I consider this more of like a, oh, go fight the dragon. Like, it's almost like a phrase rather than a thing. It wasn't until a scene like Smaug in like the Hobbit movies, or seeing Game of Thrones especially, or now this, frankly, where I was like, oh, yeah, this would be a real problem. Like, dragons can just annihilate shit so quick. Like, like again, like his tank gone. If you caught surprised, these things are done. You're done. I'm sorry, you're done. Like, truly, it was like, if there is a species that could take over Earth in a couple of days, yeah, dragons could do it.
what I thought was really interesting is they built this, what's the word, kind of expectation of Van Zam and his team as well. You know, where they had the Apache attack helicopter, and they're like, we have this thing. You know, you got to drop down the triangulators, and then I'm gonna find it, and I was like, okay, this is really interesting. And then to watch that build up to him fail, was very interesting. And then seeing how that was depicted, or the response was depicted differently, excuse me, between the group that lived in the castle and the Americans. That was really interesting too. Seeing, you know, the British people, like, basically being stoked that they took out a dragon. Then Van Zam come through and go, y'all disgust me.
That scene. Okay, here's
personally,
all right,
y'all
so,
disgust me.
So now that we're back at cultural icon Denton Van Zam, we need to like talk about McConaughey for a second, because he makes the same choices Forrest Whitaker did in Rogue One, where you have Saw Gerrera coming in with lies, deception, and it's just like, whoa. Like, you are taking swings. Like, you are taking big ass swings, my boy. Like, and then I love when Matthew McConaughey, who also is fucking jacked in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, I don't, like, he kind of pulled the Bradley Cooper American Sniper, where he looks like he put on weight. Like, he wasn't the lean Matthew McConaughey that we're typically used to seeing. He's carrying around that axe, and, you know, he's just like full on barbarian. And it's like, it is that whole thing of going, okay, all right, I'll listen when you talk. Like, come on, like, you know, sort of a thing there.
Well,
where I like it. You know what I mean? Like, I wrote a line down that I was like, I thought this was great. Was he says, he goes over here and he's like, they're like, that's their territory, and he just looks and he has that look and he goes, that's my territory.
It's our territory.
Your territory. Yeah. And he's like, and then he just kind of does it. And I also this is just a little thing, but it's definitely what I'm going to call friends of mine now, which is, I love the name, was the Kentucky Irregulars. The Kentucky I don't know why. I just was like, the Kentucky Irregulars is going to be the name, like something I'm going to use. I don't know what I'm going to do it for, but it's going to be a thing.
It's so absurd that he shows up, gets let in, and then the helicopter just lands. It's you're just watching Christian Bale go, fuck. Because everyone's like, why'd you let him in?
You gotta know he's like,
and
fuck, he's cool.
You know this film was made by like a British guy too, because it's kind of like, it's a little anti-American.
Oh
I don't know
yeah.
if you guys got that vibe watching the film, where I was just kind of like,
Oh, what the
British
Kentucky
are the
Irregulars now?
sensible- yeah, they're the sensible, respectful people, and the Americans just like killing everything.
Greedy said, "There's only one thing worse than a dragon: Americans."
Literally,
Americans.
dude. What a
And
line!
I went, all right.
That line in particular felt like it came straight out of like a novel. Like that was the chapter ending line. You know,
You're
the
right.
one thing worse than a dragon, Americans, and the chapter ends, and then it's like chapter
Tanks
47,
roll up.
the
Like,
Americans.
yeah, like it was also just like I literally was saying to Allie while we were watching it, I was like, so you're Matthew McConaughey in a post-apocalyptic thing is literally straddling a Barrett 50 caliber like anti-tank gun on top of like an M1 Abrams, and like going through
All
over
of that
here
was
about to
gibberish
go
to
fight
me.
a goddamn dragon. And I was like, how have I gone this long on this planet without knowing that this is a thing? And I was just like, this is like I cannot overstate how happy every frame of this film made me. With like,
Yeah.
like one of them in particular towards the end, and I don't want to skip fully ahead, but when Denton Van Zam meets his end by jumping off of a building, axe in hand, full on Conan style, like Conan the Barbarian, going straight in for a kill on a dragon with an axe that he does not land. Like, just I was at work today finishing the movie. I laughed out loud. I was just sitting there just going,
So that's a really great moment to kind of transition over to kind of our next point, where I'd love to go around the room, theoretical room, and just kind of get from you guys some of your favorite moments in the film. So let's start with you, David, because it's your film. What
Please.
are some of your big call-outs in this film? Obviously, we've talked about the explanation and the biology of the dragon, so that's a big one. But what are some of your favorite moments in the film?
One thing that I liked about the movie is, like, first it sets the expectation of, okay, it's post-apocalyptic. They don't have the technology anymore. It kind of set them back, right? But then you gradually get introduced to a tank. And then you get introduced, like, they get let in, and then all of a sudden, boom, a helicopter comes in. So the audience is just as surprised to see the helicopter as they would be, in essence.
That's a very good point. I love that.
And just overall, what I liked about this film is the visuals, like that giant male dragon just burning all of the forces in one sweep, that wide shot of him just doing that and flying away. Just the dragon shots were very nice.
That sequence where they're going through like London trying to get through, that was very Terminator 2 for me.
yeah.
Like it had that vibe of the Terminators walking through the destroyed city. And I was like, One thing that I found interesting is, until Van Damme said that's him, I just thought that was just a dragon. He didn't look any bigger to me than the dragon they fought at the start.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't until the end of the film where you see him next to the other ones that I was like, oh no, that's a big boy. That's a big boy.
That's a big
What about you, Keegan?
boy.
What are some of your favorite moments from the film?
Oh my god, anyone where Denton Van Zam was in it. Like, pretty much, like, every time they said that name, as well as I was just saying that, I was like, Denton Van Zam is his name? Like, you wanted to call him Claude Van Damme so goddamn bad, but, like, you couldn't. So you had to change Van Damme to Van Zam. I'm like, this is perfect. I was like, that was it. But seriously, in all, like, you brought up, like, I love the Matthew McConaughey moment, but I also like what you were talking about, David, with that eradication of the troops, because it kind of just goes to what I thought was one of the really effective things about this film. Was I was like, dragons are goddamn terrifying.
Oh yeah,
because it's like, it's kind of like, I think about D&D, and it's like, you fail a stealth check, that thing's not only coming in and leveling you, it's leveling your entire troop. Like, just seeing just one stream of fire, and it's like, that's a tank, your cars, 20 other people gone. Like, it's And I love that kind of shit where it's like big stakes. It's kind of like the concept of like, Return of the Jedi when the Death Star starts firing on the ships. It's like, oh my God, that was one of our cruisers. Gone. Like it's that kind of equivalent of, I think that those are really interesting moments when you have these bigger battles, especially in a post-apocalyptic where you barely have anything.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, it's not like, oh, I have thousands of tanks. It's like, we had one tank.
Yeah.
We had one tank. That if we don't have a tank, we got no tank. Like,
absolutely.
It's like, and I felt that, as you were saying, like one of my favorite moments of that was when they were actually in the crops at the beginning of the film, when they're crouching down and they're waiting for it. Because I was like, oh my God. It was like they were building up the tension to seeing the dragon, which like they kind of approached it like Spielberg did in Jaws, which I appreciated, which was like, you kind of had this sense of, when is it going to come? When is it going to be here?
Nice.
And when it comes in, and it's just like, bam, just going in there. It's like, I really love that. And I think that it's insane. And obviously Kenny in the live chat, thank you so much for coming in. Absolutely. Throw out we're talking about our favorite moments of the film. So if you want to throw that in there and tell us what you thought too, throw in some of your favorite moments. But that was one of them. I really liked the scene where Matthew McConaughey goes into the basement and does call them out for that moment. I thought it was so extra and unnecessary, but I loved it all the same, because I was like, you just told me a hell of a lot about your character. Like, and that was the thing, it was like, I could go that he's just chewing the scenery, which he was, but like, he's doing it in such a way of like, you get it.
Yeah.
Like you understand that's just who this guy is. And I love that she even brings it up in the film where she's like, the thing about you is that you feel this. He doesn't. That's why he's able to do what he does.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I think that Matthew McConaughey made that character far better than it had any right to be.
Yeah, he definitely helped the character.
This is one of those cases. Bryan Cranston said this once, and I'll pull this up, but this was just like the moment that I really love was Bryan Cranston said once, a good actor can take B-level material and raise it up one letter grade. Like a good actor can only do one letter grade. That's it. I think this script was at like a C, maybe a B minus, like kind of there. Like it had thought put into it, so I appreciated that. But I felt like McConaughey and Bale's performances raised it up a letter grade.
Yeah.
Like they made me buy into the world so damn hard. I don't know if you guys felt the same way, but I've seen the McConaughey character done in other films that were much more modern and done worse.
I mean, it was done in another film by Christian Bale, Terminator Salvation. But I definitely
maybe that's why he was so angry on that movie, was he knew he'll never be McConaughey.
I felt for me that probably the script felt more like a D that came up to a C as opposed to a C to a B.
Fair enough.
Because there were definitely some moments where I was sitting there and I was going like, this could have used a couple more drafts. But one of the best lines in history is just like one of the final lines of the film, which is like, I thought you didn't believe in hope. And he's like, I've adapted or I've evolved. And she's just like, thank God for evolution. And then they walk off into the sunset, and I'm just like, this is the greatest fucking thing I've ever seen.
Now,
Kenny says their favorite part is when they're recreating Star Wars in the beginning of the movie, which we were talking about before. That is a fantastic, fantastic scene.
Oh yeah,
and I like
and then
that
he also
like,
says when
it's
Matthew jumped
building.
at the dragon.
Yeah,
and
I didn't notice that.
The movie ended for me there. I was like, this cannot get better.
Yeah, but it's crazy because that moment feels like it's for us, because it's like that's what we would do. Like that is absolutely what I would do. Oh, all these kids, let me show you. Let me reenact the Shawshank Redemption for you. Let me show you Schindler's List.
Claim it was mine. Like the kids are
did
just
you make that up? Of course I did.
Yeah, of course I did. That was so good. But yeah, David, yours.
My
like
what?
continuing
What?
on. Like I like you were gonna say something.
Oh no, I was wondering if because this was a complaint that I didn't understand at the time back then. The woman that played Alex, she's not actually American. Did you guys notice that at all?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Eh.
Because
Like
it does squeak out a couple of times, and I'm like, that's fine, you know.
but I'm also like, all these people are, I'm like, in the post-apocalyptic way, I'm like, maybe she wasn't American, like, but then she kind of was spent enough time with Americans that kind of the accent kind of got
True.
there.
Yeah, that's
There's a
definitely way it
lot of
could've
different
gone.
explanations. You know, you could go with that.
To me, I'm like, if it's kind of like the old adage of Harrison Ford and Mark Hamill, like during like, you know, A New Hope, where it's like, okay, my hair was wet, and that's like
It's not that
you know,
kind
my
of
hair was
movie.
wet in this scene, and now it's not there. It's like, hey kid, not that kind of movie. If
Kenny
they're
says,
paying attention to your hair, we're in big trouble. Like
Kenny says that jumping at a dragon is the most American thing to do. So seriously, Matthew was American before American was a thing.
that's, you're right.
Or based on the canon of this film, after American was a thing. And I love again that piece at the end as well, where the kid comes up to, I think it's Kenny or something, is it? He comes up to Quinn and he's like, Quinn, there's voices on the radio. Who are they? They're French. They want to speak to who's in charge. Well, that would be you. Thanks, Quinn.
That was so good. You're so right. It's just like
You're
that
so
moment
right.
of going, you're so right. But like I do think that like that moment was great. All the stuff that he had with those orphan children was also just like, had a couple of moments where I was like, oh, that's interesting that he has this like not like a parenting complex because his mother dies in front of him, and not the fact that like, oh, but he just, I don't know, it's just such a funny thing with Christian Bale in that whole moment. I also do love in the beginning scene, I thought that the whole thing was going to be this crop thing that was going to be like, oh, that's a huge problem for them. They just got their whole crop completely burned. Never brought up again. Never. Nah, it's kind of like in pitch meetings where like, oh, barely an inconvenience. Like just sort of a
Yeah.
like.
Whoosh says it's hilarious to me because I remember her from GoldenEye, where she plays a Russian with a stereotypical Eastern European accent. She's Polish born Swedish. That's interesting.
Ah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. But there are so many moments like that in the film. And one of the things that I kind of, like, not struggled with, but like kind of bothered me in the moment were how easily Quinn gives up his history to people he's never met before. Like, what was her name? Is it Anna? She's like, what's the matter with you? He's like, my mum was killed by a dragon when I was going down the shaft to find the dragons. And then it's like, that's it.
See-
and then later it's like, is that your son? He's like, nah. I found him when he was 3 years old and I took him. It's like,
See, but I
okay,
also
Quinn.
but I also had a moment where I was like, okay, I respect that you're not making it a huge reveal later in the film, you know? Because I also feel like, okay, why don't you want to go over there? Well, it's actually relevant information to bring up. You know, I would rather not. Like, you know what I mean? Like, sort of a thing there. But I was like, I agree with you. You're right, because he did have that weird cadence aspect of it. But one of my other favorite ones, which was, I just read it on my notes because there was one moment that made me laugh, which was when after the dragon comes back and is like burning through like their whole structure. It's the day after, right? And they're like, you think Gerard Butler's dead, you think that like, you know, his other people are dead, and it's like all of a sudden you're hearing noises outside the door, and they open the door, and then you see like Gerard Butler like burnt basically to a crisp, but still there smiling. She's there, and then as I wrote, Matthew McConaughey really put his whole McConaughey into that door push, and like to reveal that he was there, because he kind of goes, ugh, and just kind of like, but
Yeah.
it's like the perfect. But it, like, I was also kind of mad because it was the perfect reveal. Like the action was so good to be like as a reveal into frame shot. It was so good that I was like, okay, that is clean. but it was ridiculous. Like,
And the fight between him and Quinn as well is brilliant. Kenny says that another cool shot was when we see the first dragon in the coal mining elevator. That was cool.
That was nice.
And
also, the reveal of his mom being dead was insane. That
Yes.
moment where it was like, oh shit, okay.
Yeah. But there was a couple of things that I really liked about the opening, and I think the film does a great job of kind of making itself, or kind of filling itself with some horror elements. You know, like, we avoid the monster for a long time besides the initial kind of view, and even then it's kind of, you know, obscured. But I loved how they would, like, essentially the first time we see him, right, turns on the lighter with the cigarette, and it lights up.
Oh yeah.
And you just see it go, and I was like, excuse me, and then and I was like, oh my god, this is sick.
Shit.
There were some really cool moments there, of how they, yeah, like we said, basically put some horror elements in there. Like, it's very quiet, like, you're kind of feeling a little tense. And thanks, Kenny, for the follow as well, mate. But
yeah, likewise.
It just, yeah, it was awesome, man. It was awesome.
Like, truly, it's one of those moments of going, what the hell is this? And it kind of brings to a question, because I wrote this down, and I stand by it. I say, let me be clear. This film is not going to win any Oscars. However, it should be considered because it is brilliant, but not for the reasons that, like, but I also go, there is a certain vibe that, like, you know, I really feel that this had just, there are films that you want to be exactly what they are. Like, you know, like, there are certain films that, like, I wanted nothing more, nothing less. I wanted the vibe. It's like the D&D movie. It's like, this is exactly what I wanted. I got it. I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and this is the same thing where it's like, I got more than what I wanted. I didn't know I wanted Denton Van Zam. I mean, didn't know that that's what I needed.
It had to be what I wanted because I own the film now. So it would have been very frustrating.
You have invested more money in that film than anybody has in the past couple of years.
I invested more money into the film than the studio did. $61 million USD, which is equal to $11 AUD. And Kenny says that it just hit him. Matthew and Brad had the same energy for two different movies, Reign of Fire and Fight Club, which I haven't seen Fight Club, but I have heard things.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess my fun fact for a while was that I had never seen Fight Club, but then I saw Fight Club.
You never.
That would be an interesting one. There's a reason in more ways than one, but nonetheless, like, I don't know, Dave, like, what do you think when it comes to films like this? Because I do think it's kind of like Star Wars, right? There's a vibe. Mm-hmm. It's not necessarily about, like, does it fully make sense or doesn't think there's sometimes where a film just needs to have the right vibes, you know? And I'm kind of curious to hear your thought on that.
It's kind of like it boils down to, I think, personal preference also, because I was going for the dragons. I was already satisfied. And then just the rest of it was all great extra. And that's why I said before, like, Attack of the Clones is my favorite prequel, but I understand why people don't share that opinion. It's just because of my personal experience, it's my favorite one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man.
You know, so there's different aspects to everyone's opinion, I guess, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, and I think
very good, very well put.
This definitely will be the kind of film that is not for everyone. Like, some people are just going to be like, nah, I cannot get into it. But I don't know, something about the way that I was introduced to it by the conversation with Keegan of him going, there's a dragon on the Tower of London, and I was like, what?
Sold.
And then seeing the poster that I was like, you know what? Yeah. Kenny says it's a man movie. All action, little storytelling, hot actors. Which is funny because you'd think that hot actors would be there for the girls, but it is very male gaze, this film.
Yeah. and the bisexuals are having a great time. Let me tell you what. Like, listen,
There's-
the bisexuals are thinking about Matthew McConaughey a little differently. Like,
there's a lot of interesting one-liners too, like a lot. I think
oh yeah.
Hit me
one
with some
one
of
of
your
my
favorites.
favorites is one of my favorites is said by actually a couple of the minor characters when the guy on the radio calls the guy that's on watch with the bird, and he's like, well, she's not moving, and he's like, forget the bird and use the scope, you wanker, and then hangs up.
There was a
remember that. That was
line like
brilliant.
that I was one of the lines I wrote, which was, I don't know why this extra went with this choice, but it made me laugh. And for like, one thing is, I'll just find like little random lines in movies funny to just for no reason at all. I'm just like, that one just resonated with me. And this one got me where it was like when Matthew McConaughey's group is like, oh, let's move out, let's try to go hit them where they live, sort of thing. And you have one guy where he's looking at, like, Matthew McConaughey gets off, he starts loading his shotgun, which a short range weapon going up against a dragon. Don't get me wrong, him carrying that thing on his belt, like carrying it on his hip, I'm like, badass. Like, but it really is the American way of being like, I didn't think this all the way through. Like, just going, I was kind of here for the looks and the vibe, but I didn't think through everything that was going to go with it. But the line was, one of his soldiers kind of is over there. He goes, is this Pembry? This looks like Pembry. And he just says it in such close succession that I was just like, okay, Joe, calm down. Like, just like, because he goes, and then he goes,
Go ahead.
and then he asks him like another question, like right afterwards, like, "Is this Pembry? This is Pembry, isn't it?" And then he goes like something like, "I don't think that they should be here," but it was the same guy that said all of those at the same time, and I was just like, "Jonathan, will you please like just?"
Kenny says this is my boomstick energy. That's referring to.
Oh, you're absolutely right.
Yeah. But there are so many little moments like that were just brilliant. And yeah, I think the radio in particular. Also, did you guys? I don't know if you guys noticed. I sent it in the chat last night. But one of the kids that was in that lineup of kids was Jack Gleason, who plays Joffrey Baratheon in Game of Thrones.
He was also in Batman Begins.
I was gonna say
Yeah.
it's his first time crossing paths with Christian Bale, which he does again in Batman Begins. So I don't know what the deal is.
That's
there.
insane.
That's like a nepotism thing. Maybe they're related. But I could have sworn that was him. He's got a very specific structure to his face that is kind
you're
of
right.
unmissable. I thought that
Oh
was
my
really
God.
cool. And when they get to London and you see the backdrop of, Big Ben and stuff and just all the dragons.
Oh my God.
Actually, one of the things that I think the film did really well for its time was the skydiving sequence.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't look amazing, honestly. It doesn't. But it's 2002. Like, you're doing skydiving in the dark with a dragon. How do you make that look good? And it is pretty effective for the time.
I mean, the fact that a lot of these, like we talked about it earlier, the fact that a lot of these effects can kind of hold up to like even Game of Thrones standards with like the dragons.
Okay, let's just okay. Come
like
on,
again,
Keegan.
I'm not saying like Game of Thrones is obviously the more evolved version of it. Like Game of Thrones made dragons feel so real and so alive, but I did feel like the actual visual effects of this, I was like, as you said, the way that it interacted with live elements, the fact that it actually was there, it didn't feel like a CG creature just in for CG creature's sake. It's like it actually felt like it lived and it breathed and it had a moment there. Like again, it was the 2000s equivalent of what would become Game of Thrones level dragons. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like it's not that like, but it just amazed me at how frightening they were, at how effective it was. Like it was insane because it's like I it makes me now I want like more of this. Like, I don't know why.
I
Like,
want a sequel,
I don't need
a trilogy
more.
of books.
I
I want
don't.
a comic.
I don't know. I kind of want a prequel of like the fall of London. Like, like I kind of want like what they're doing? They're doing like Lupita Nyong'o is going to be in uh like a Quiet Place prequel thing that's coming out that Krasinski's directing.
I'll watch anything
That's like
she is in ever.
I agree.
Hmm.
So like, but I want that for this. Like, I want that like little part where Christian Bale does the very 2000s, mind you, cross-cut montage edit, which I in my Spider-Man rewatch, that was when I was like, oh wow, this really is a 2000s movie, isn't it? And just going like, this is the epitome of 2000 ADHD editing.
Yeah.
And like unmedicated ADHD editing. And this is the same where it's like crossfade. I did like that they kind of mixed this like parchment, kind of like that old medieval stuff.
Yeah.
But it also was still modern a bit. Like that was cool.
Yeah. Kenny says that London was amazingly done from CG to practical effects. Where did Green Lantern go wrong?
So true. Well said, Kenny. Well said. Kenny's right.
Well,
But a question
ask,
with
like,
that.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Naf. No, you go ahead.
Well, I was gonna ask. Obviously, we've talked a lot about like our favorite moments, call-outs. In terms of like negatives, I don't think there's any reason to kind of dwell on that too much. Like, obviously, the film isn't perfect. It's a bit silly. Like, it's a bit rough around the edges. But that's kind of like what makes
The charm.
it good. Like, it's not so much a so bad it's good. It's just like a, okay, that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
And once you're on board for that, like, man, if I could have a smoke and rewatch this, I reckon it'll be the best film I ever watched.
Oh, I'm already gonna go and do this like as a drink. Like me and my buddy, we have these drinking game movies where we'll watch like old movies, but then we'll find a drinking game,
Brilliant.
and, like with it, and then we'll like he'll be in Arizona and I'll be here, and we'll just watch the movie together. And I'm like, buddy, I know what our next one is. Like, we have to watch this together because he's that kind of person that will just be in the same boat that we are all in.
Yeah, for sure.
But to your point with like negatives, there were some logic things where I'm like, again, like we talked a little earlier. Okay, one male dragon keeping the entire population of dragons alive.
Yeah, like, that there's like some jizz raining. Like, it's
always, like constantly. And like it's one of those things where it's like, but the other thing that I wrote down is like was Van Zam having this moment of stopping his entire platoon, knowing that the dragon is hunting them, and basically has this moment of, for the military strategist he is, I get you can't move the cars necessarily, but he's like, it's not like a velociraptor where they're going to come out from the sides. Why his method for avoiding a dragon attacking them is by having them bunched together in a row.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, and I'm like, you were at the height of the academy now, were you? Like,
yeah, for sure, man. Like, there's a few little things like that, but like, I think Kenny says as well, it's stupid fun. It's a movie if you like fantasy or dystopian level fun. Here you go, which is exactly that, right? Like, if I were to recommend this to anyone, I would go in going, just enjoy the ride. I'd love to know from you guys if you were to give the film like a rating or a recommendation. Like, would you recommend this film to people? I know you would, David, because you did. But what about you, Keegan? You reckon you'll recommend this film to other people?
Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like the thing is with this film is like, that is my rating. It's a fuck yeah out of 5.
Amazing.
Is what it is. Like, truly said, I love this film unapologetically. Like, truly, I think this is awesome. But that's the best word I can use for it. It's awesome in a different way than something like John Wick is awesome, but in a similar spectrum. Where it's like, this is, am I going to go over here and say it's art? No. Am I going to have a phenomenal time and put this on probably more often than I thought? Yeah. Like, amazing. I will, like just it's I don't know how you feel enough. Like I'm excited to hear what you think, but I'm just like, this is like everything you want it to be.
Yeah.
Like this is like it's basically my pitch to people is saying, yeah, it's one of those things where I would basically say, do you want to watch a 2000s movies with Matthew McConaughey and Christian Bale in a post-apocalyptic world where the world was ruined by dragons and now they got to defeat them?
Yeah.
If depending on their reaction, that tells me if they're gonna like it, the movie, or not. And if they're like, oh, okay, and I say we're not watching it,
Yeah,
like just be
understand.
like, if they go, when do we start? Like that's the reaction I'm looking for. Is
Yeah.
like
you gotta be in it. You know, you gotta be in. Woosh says it's an amazing popcorn flick. Just turn off your brain and enjoy. And Kenny says, I would recommend it, but only to those who understand the time it was made. Definitely not today's media. Which, yeah, like it definitely feels like the kind of movie that if you showed someone now, they'd kind of try to tear it apart. And it's like, not everything is about watching a film to show how much smarter you are than the people who made it. Sometimes it is just about enjoying it. But what about you, David? How would you rate this film?
Kind of the same as Keegan. Like I feel like I am a terrible film critic overall because there's a lot of movies where I just sit back and enjoy, and a lot of stuff that it wouldn't bother me. But then if you were to bring up a negative thing to me, I would be like, yeah, you know what? That's true. Doesn't bother me though.
Yeah. I totally get that. And for me, I think I fall in the same category as you guys. Like on Letterboxd, I gave it like a 3 out of 5, which I was like, it's really solid. But I think usually on Letterboxd, I try and write some nice, you know, complete reviews. You know, this person gave a great performance, this person blah blah. And on that one, I'm pretty sure I just wrote, yeah, it's pretty fucking sick. Not gonna lie.
See, that's the vibe.
That's the vibe, man. It's fucking awesome. Like, I don't know, man. I'm so glad that I watched it. And I can tell you're glad that you watched it as well, Keegs. And naturally, you'd be glad as well, David, considering you shared it to us.
Dude, I'm so happy that I accidentally like made you guys love this film.
Like truly, like again, I could not believe just what I was watching the entire time, and that's fun. Like even in this day and age, I don't think I've had this much fun with a movie in a while. Like even with our recommendations, there's been a fair amount of times where I've had fun with our recommendations. This is like probably the most fun I've had with a recommendation that we've had. Like I think that's the best way I can put it, because we've had, I guess the other ones were like, we're going to be talking about the John Wick franchise in a bit. Though that was a lot of fun.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So, but like this truly was just one of those. Oh my God! Every moment this film goes on, I am just agog with like, what, huh? How?
I've got a question for you too, Keegan.
Yeah.
Without David's recommendation, do you think you ever would have watched this film?
Honestly, no. Like the thing is, it's like because I hadn't heard about it until now. How can we like that? That's my feeling on it. Where it's like, I just don't know how I would have ever heard about it because it's just so specific. And it's like, so it's kind of a cool thing. I always think that about some films where I'm like, I always have a theory out there. Is I'm like, there's so many people on this planet, and I believe firmly that every film that is made is somebody's favorite film. It may be one person, but somewhere in the world, someone's like, that's my favorite film.
Hell yeah.
Of all time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, even if it's for a couple years or things like that, like there's got to be somebody. I'm like, and this is kind of proves my point where I'm like, you know, who, like, again, who are we to say? Like, I'm like, yeah, is the film phenomenal? Like, from a structure standpoint, it has like a lot of things. Yeah, but that's not why we came to the theater, you know?
Yeah.
It's like if it delivered a full-on incredible Macbethian script, I mean, awesome. But like, none of us are expecting that from this movie.
Yeah.
And I just think that the fact that it has these kind of legs outside of its year. But question to you now: do you think that you would have seen it?
Well, yeah, no, absolutely not. Like, I mean, maybe because Whoosh, who's in chat, is one of my good friends, and maybe at one of our movie nights, he may have at one point recommended it and been like, let's watch this. Because when I told him we went to watch Suzume yesterday, and when I told him we were watching Reign of Fire today, his response was like, oh my god, I need to come hang out in chat. But to your previous point as well, Keegs, a Star Wars dear said that there's movies that you just gotta enjoy just to enjoy. Sometimes it's good to enjoy a movie that you don't have to overthink, and yeah. Absolutely. And Kenny says that other films are Blade 3, Bicentennial Man, Sherlock Holmes 1 and 2.
Oh my god, the Sherlock Holmes, the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes movies.
Guy Ritchie, yeah?
Okay, we gotta do at least the first one. I have not seen the second.
So
but
I've seen
gotta watch the
I've
first.
seen big chunks of both of them, but I've never sat down and watched it all the way through.
We gotta watch Sherlock Holmes.
We could do a back-to-back and do them both in one episode.
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. But I mean, that's a good point to jump onto sort of our next point here. I'd love to know from you guys, like, is there anything else that you guys have been watching this week that you'd love to recommend to our amazing viewers?
Well, yeah, David, have you seen anything recently that's kind of caught your fancy right now?
New movies in theaters, new shows you started, something you rewatched, a game you started playing. That's fine.
Oh, he needs a second. Hold on.
Oh, he's
I just
frozen.
saw a finger go
thinking.
up for. You hold that position well enough, David, that like truly I felt the same way.
Yeah.
And you've tricked us now twice.
Well, I
see you laughing on TikTok, so I'm like, I see the veneer. I see the visage.
Kenny was talking about Bicentennial Man, and he's just sent as well, is my guilty pleasure. I cry every single time at the end. That is a movie that I've watched so many times from being a kid. Have you ever seen it, Keeks?
No.
Okay, we're going to do Bicentennial Man. It's Robin Williams.
Oh, I have heard of this, but I've never seen it.
Oh my god! I want to rewatch this so bad. So yes, Bicentennial Man we're going to do on the podcast. That is...
I think one of my friends really recommended that for me, and I was like, I just hadn't gotten a chance to get around to it.
Yeah, it is. It's interesting. It is very interesting. And yeah,
is that the one where there's like a tree involved with that one, right?
I don't believe there's a tree involved. It's like the family buys a robot to look after them, and the robot slowly decides it wants to become more and more human. And it's about that process of how does a robot become human? What does it mean to be human? It's from what I remember, brilliant. I don't know if in retrospect recently it'll actually be good, but I have a lot of fond memories of that from being a kid.
Okay. All right. So
David, we were asking what are some recommendations you might give our audience for something that you might have experienced recently, be it game, movie, TV show. What should people watch?
Well, as far as watching, I've been watching an older show, Breaking Bad, for the first time. I have not seen it before.
Amazing. I think I saw
it's amazing.
You just got up to season 4, is that right?
Yep. I'm on like the 3rd or 4th episode of season 4 now.
Have you had spoilers
for the
show before?
I know a couple of things, but a few of the other spoilers I gotten I've already passed by. I do know one other thing, and it's not really a big deal, so I'm just gonna wait to get to it.
Yeah, I get you. And are you gonna watch Better Call Saul after that?
I am definitely like I was trying to power through as much as possible before going to Fan Expo in June, because we're gonna meet Giancarlo Esposito, and I wanted to have more under my belt. And hey, you're Moff Gideon. Like I wanted to like more about him. And also it was a perfect opportunity to watch something I've been putting off for years.
I feel that.
And funny, it's actually a stipulation. My mom has seen both, like fully. And she said, I will buy you a meet and greet if you tell Giancarlo Esposito how much I like him in those shows. So I have to walk up to this man and say, hey, my mom really likes you in both Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad, by the way.
Let's
see how that
I love
goes.
that. That's awesome.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And Keegan, did you have anything come up?
Yeah, I have a couple that are actually kind of interesting to me. One is I'm a huge actual play kind of person there. But mainly College Humor's Dimension 20 has been my favorite Dungeons and Dragons actual plays.
You like Dungeons and Dragons? I couldn't have told from your shirt.
Oh, I wonder. Wow, this old thing, weird. But like, the thing was, I realized how much of a nerd I was when they announced this season that Matt Mercer was going behind the screen instead of Brennan Lee Mulligan, and I was like, the fact that I understood what all those words meant made me feel like I've entered a new echelon of nerd that I was like, I felt very proud of. And so that is there. But I truly recommend The Ravening War if you were a fan of Crown and Candy. If you are anybody who's understanding these words, this is for you. It's great. It lives up to the hype. I understand the hype behind Matt Mercer as a DM now, and I'm there for it. And Jedi Survivor. I haven't gone through all of it, but I've been enjoying what I've been seeing so far. Honestly, that's about it. And then Reign of Fire. Like, literally, this would have been my recommendation to literally anybody.
Yeah.
Oh, and actually, the D&D movie, because I finally saw all of it, not pieces that I slept through.
I can't believe you slept through my favorite scene, too. Just the likelihood that I looked over to you, and I had, like, the biggest smile on my face, and I'm losing my shit, and you're just... I couldn't believe it.
So true. So true. But, yeah, those were there. And Guardians 3 was awesome.
Guardians 3 was awesome. Definitely recommend that. I got to catch Suzume in theaters yesterday, which was great. That's by Makoto Shinto, who also did films like Your Name and Weathering with You. And it's another banger. He does these fantastic stories that kind of, they're long, beautifully animated, really in-depth stories that I think are really great. Ted Lasso season 3 continues to be phenomenal. Succession season 4, I think the finale is coming up tomorrow or next week. Like, it's either just finished or it's about to. I'm a few episodes behind, but season 4 so far has been brilliant. But one thing that I've been really excited to get into is season 4 of Barry, which is the final season of that show, which is one of the greatest and most underrated, well, not underrated, but like underappreciated and known. I said Makoto Shinkai's name backwards. But yeah, the Barry is a brilliant TV show. So I would recommend that to anyone as well. And Kenny reckons they're rewatching House MD and they forgot how good that show really was. I've never seen that. My mum recently
watched that
show though.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some good stuff there.
Haven't watched all of it, but it's good stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, I've seen pieces. Everything I've seen is great.
Yeah, same. Well,
very good character.
Yeah, I have heard. Yeah. Well, let's look at wrapping up a little bit. So we actually have the next few weeks of content planned out, which is great. So if you guys want to, you can
different for us if you've been following us for any period of time.
You can join the Discord or follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter if you want updates on what's happening and where we're going.
You can come over to my house. Just let me know. Just
knock on the door, ask them what the film is. But for next week, we do have a guest already planned out. It's at Marvelous Johnny, which you guys can find on TikTok as well. He does Marvel content and he's doing Star Wars content. He's a really great dude. And the film that he's bringing along with him is Shaolin Soccer, which another one I'm probably going to have to purchase because it's difficult to find. Kari's drunk ass is dozing off, so she's going to sleep, so bye, Kari. But next week, we'll be watching Shaolin Soccer with Marvelous Johnny. So for this week, find that film, give it a watch, and then come and join us either on the TikTok Live or on the YouTube Live to talk about that film with us and join us in chat because we love having this conversation with you. Kenny, obviously, thank you for being in chat and being
seriously
as well. It's great to chat with you. David, thank you so much.
We hope that you're going to be with us next week.
Too. Yeah, definitely come back.
Problem.
And if anybody else is in chat and you enjoyed the content of the podcast, please feel free to subscribe, follow us individually. Kenny, there's also the one with the films TikTok you can check out if you like, which is specific to the podcast as opposed to our individual content. But yeah, it's really great to have you guys with us. And David, thank you again so much for joining us today too. Why don't you tell the viewers here where they can find you and what they can expect to find if they do?
So I am Xanatos 1138 on all socials, mostly TikTok, and I'm trying to get into Twitch, but um, it would be great to get more followers on there as well. But mostly for TikTok, I do Star Wars, Marvel, pop culture stuff. Like anything that comes up, I might feel like talking about.
Hell yeah. And what about you,
Phenomenal.
Keeks? Where can we find you?
Well, I am at Movie Man Opinions. You can find me on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. But on Twitter, I am just Movie Man Opinion. I only have one opinion, and that's IG units are great. And but the thing is that you can find us also here, obviously on YouTube. If you're watching us with YouTube, you've already found us. Congratulations, you won. If you haven't, go on to the One with the Film site over there. You can find us over there. And Naf, where can they find you?
You can find me at On Second Thought, basically anywhere besides Twitter. It's a zero. It's like zero second thought because somebody took my name, which is really annoying. But yeah, you can find me talking film, TV, and a whole lot of Star Wars anywhere you go. I love talking about stuff, as you can probably tell. And Kenny, you mentioned to let you know when we're doing Bicentennial Man because you'd love to join that convo. We would love to have you on, my friend. So DM either myself or Keegan and we can tee that up. We've got most of our content planned out until about mid-July, but we can absolutely fit you into one of those future episodes as well because, yeah, I'd love to have somebody else that knows that film. I think you're probably the first person who's ever mentioned it that wasn't in my family. So definitely DM us and we'll tee that up for you.
Absolutely. And going off of that, guys, obviously we are going to be here every Saturday. Sometimes the time varies, but if you keep an eye on that, you'll always find us here. We feel pretty good about keeping things with the YouTube. We used to do this over Twitch, and this seems to be a little bit better doing it on YouTube. So just, find us there. Give us a follow because and if you like the content, liking, sharing, and commenting, as you guys know, it really helps the algorithm. It also just lets us know that you truly are enjoying the content. Obviously, David, you getting a chance to come over here was just so great. Thank you for bringing this film with us, sharing your passion for it, and just having a lovely conversation. This has been one of the best that we've done, and we really enjoy it. So thank you guys all for doing this, and come on back. Let's have a lot of fun. We love sharing things with each other, and we love watching stuff together. So come on over. We're going to have a great time. And as my friend Raglan says, so you're just going to say everything on your podcast that I say?
He's calling you out for your bullshit.